Good evening and welcome to the podcast called The Secret. And I'm your host, Bob Pace. And tonight, for the next hour, we're going to talk about how to fight social services, the CPS branch, the Child Protection Services, and how to get your children back. I know a lot of you out there are very anxious and worried about your involvement in social services. It's a very scary thing when it does happen. This show is produced by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California, and he has a, he has several good other lawyers that deal with other matters besides children and family law and CPS. Mr. Davis, Vincent W. Davis, is a professional family law attorney with years of background. He's a trial attorney, so he can do trials. He knows all about CPS and your dealings with how to fight and get your kids back. He was my attorney, but I discovered him too late. I wish I'd discovered him earlier. But anyway, he is offering right now a free consultation for 30 minutes up to an hour. And all you need to do is call in and schedule that time with him. Now, what you do is you call 888-888-6582. That's my office, and I'll get in touch with our answering clerks there. Tell them that Bob Pace said to call in and schedule a time with Vincent Davis, and he will do so. He'll schedule a strategy meeting, meaning that he's going to sit there and talk to you about your case and how you can get your kids back. If you like what he has to say, you may want to retain him. He's an excellent attorney, and he will make you feel a lot better. Because as you navigate through social services, through CPS, you're going to find out that it isn't a nice place. Another way to interact in the show is you can text a message in the comments section, and you can let me see. Put your name and what state you're calling from and what your CPS matter is, your child protection, what are the allegations and the children. And then I'll display the question and then we'll try to answer it. Another way is that you can call in right now at 626-698-0990. That's my office phone. You reach me right now direct, and then we can put you on live if you want to go live and talk to you. We have an hour-long show, so you got plenty of time to talk about any topic regarding CPS. I want to hear, good stories as well as bad stories. CPS seems to be a sort of mixture bag of worms here. What I mean by that is all my deals with CPS were all negative. It was very disappointing, and they very much lie, deceit. They're not transparent, and even the court is scary and so forth. If there is a good story, we love to hear about it. We did have a good story a couple of days ago, and a lady was able to get her children back after a time, so that was good to hear. But I've talked to lots of people lately, some from Tennessee, some North Carolina, Florida, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, who come in, and they tell their story or talk about it. Now, if you want to talk about your story on another date or another time, you can be our guest on our show. A lot of times we'll have a guest that'll appear, and they'll talk about their case. You call the same number as you want to get a hold of Mr. Davis. It's my office, 888-888-6582, and tell them that Bob Pace sent you and that you want to schedule a day and a time to be a guest on the show. And I'd love to have you. I'd love to hear from you and have your chance to explain your story. Now, CPS's whole purpose is to protect our children and family reunification. Now, it may be called different names in different states, but it's all the same. It's all branches of social services, and um, they're required by law to answer every allegation that calls in and investigate it and determine whether it's true or not. And a lot of allegations will come in. Mine came in for years. I didn't know who was calling, and I later found out it was my wife's side of the family that was calling and making some crazy accusations, like we didn't have power in the house, the kids weren't fed, the kids weren't bathed, kids weren't going to school, things that weren't true. And CPS did come out on occasion, met with me. I think at one time I let them in my house early on, but that's one thing is that you should never let a social worker in your home. Don't let a policeman in your home. The only time people can come in your home if there is a warrant out to visit the house signed by a judge, meaning that the police or social service got a document that says that specifically can come into the house and talk to whoever's in the warrant and about what things they need to talk in the warrant. The reason being is that you're not trying to deceive social services. What you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid things that may be complicated that make you further into trouble. And if you have some hiccups, they can be fixed. Not everybody is a bad parent. And true, there are some parents that do hurt their children, and some parents that use their children for uh, bad things. But I want you all to know that uh, CPS can be fought. It's something so drastic. It's going to take years. It took me 3 years to get my two boys back that were part of our family of three kids. We have an older group of kids and a younger group, and the older kids are doing fine, and but the younger kids, um, uh, my wife's parents or family members thought we weren't taking good care of the kids, and they've always wanted our kids because we raised beautiful kids. And even when I first met my wife, they didn't want me to uh, be with their daughter. In fact, we had a wedding and they didn't even come to the wedding. In fact, her sister was here and she didn't come to the wedding. And so it's pretty sad that we saw the writing on the wall, but we really didn't understand it. And so now um, it was in 2015 when social services got into our home. Um, but my wife and I have been together for 30 years, and it's been a long battle. During this time, a couple of things happened in CPS besides our home being torn apart and losing our home and our kids being lied to and deceived and everything on that. Is that my wife found out some things that had affected her, and we just now understand that CPS should have investigated her mom and dad, and so that was really bad. Um, it was so bad that she had uh, been physically abused through scalding hot water, through hot coffee being thrown on her, to almost drowning in one incident, and no one there to protect her. And then she was molested by her brother. Her mom didn't protect her, even when she told her dad that he was doing something wrong. He didn't seem to be phased or believe her. In fact, to his deathbed, he didn't believe her. And it's sad because she loved her mom and dad. She's always loved her mom and dad. They're good people, and but it's really sad that they want to interfere with our life. The kids. The kids were only 9, 12, and 15 at the time. One was going to a private high school. One was going to a middle school, a public middle school. The other one was going to elementary public school. And the other two older kids had gone to the same public school. So we had a beautiful home. And it was modern. It was nice. It had a beautiful swimming pool, yards, and so forth there. but it get destroyed by CPS. And how I mean by that more than anything else is that I, lost my job in 2010, August 13th. And it's through no fault of my own. I'd gotten a lot of construction work because I work in civil engineering, and I got a lot of work, and the state of California was going bankrupt, and they decided to get creative financing, and they wrote me IOUs for my contract work and said, well, go to your banks, get a credit line. Well, in 2010, actually 2007 and 8, the banks were going bellied up. Why? They gave out predator loans. Predator loans are loans for people don't really qualify, but they jack up their income or lie on their application. The sole purpose, and one of this place went out of business, was so they get a big bonus. Everything revolves around money, just like we found out with CPS. CPS is $1 billion business. They want to keep your children in their system. They want them adopted. They want them up to the age of 18 because they get a lot of money from the state and the federal government, more than enough money to take care of the kids. So I found out it was a money-making business. And it's sad. It's like it's the only legal business I know of that can steal your children. I mean, they do steal your children, and they make it virtually impossible. And you don't. And I didn't know the law, and my wife didn't know the law. We both didn't know, and we didn't have an attorney at the time. We had the public defenders, and we found out that they're a waste of time because they have like over 20 cases, and they're only interested in themselves and not really winning the case. They'll settle anything. Then not only that, we go to the court, the dependency court, and find that the judge is not knowledgeable to be a judge. Our judge was a background in collision and car repairs. He knew how, much the fenders would be and how to get the car repaired and all the laws regarding that, but he knew nothing about family reunification. That word, family reunification, is not what CPS does. They should do that because any parent, may have some things that affect them. They should be able to go back with their kids. And so you're going to find out that these allegations are what sets everything off. So, if you get some allegations, don't talk to them. Just say yes and yes, and then get a hold of an attorney. Talk to your attorney. See what advice he says. Because you don't need to talk to them. By law, you don't have to talk to them. Now, they are kind of creative. Social services want to talk to their kids, and they can do so by attending the school. So they went to one school and tried to talk to their kids. We were called up because the parents are called when their kids are being talked by an agency. But they don't allow you in the room because why? They think the parent's going to coach the kids to say something else. In fact, it's the CPS that coaches the kids. It's the CPS that put ideas in the kids. It's the CPS that will steal your kids, that will do deceptions. And it's really sad. I don't know if you know this, but CPS workers don't need a license to practice CPS. They don't even have to be experienced. They don't have to be mentored or anything else. A social worker in the state of California requires, it's really strange. It's the only profession. Like if you're a fireman, there's a license you go for. If you're a policeman, there's a license you go for. If you're a school teacher, there's a license you go for. Everybody involves a license. A doctor, especially a doctor, requires. And a doctor requires an internship for a long period of time. They have to be seasonal before they work with patients, especially in something like open heart massage. And that's what CPS is. You have to have an attorney that is knowledgeable and knows how to navigate through the CPS world. It is so complex. You have to know forms. Like one form, do you know what a 388 is? That is a form used. It's a petition form used to submit new evidence and change the current plan that you have going and replace it with the new plan. It's a way how you reintroduce things. And so you reintroduce the new evidence, or if you completed, let's say, your parenting skills or your anger management class, or you've done other things, that's how it's entered. And so if you don't know that, And, if you don't have an attorney, there's lots of forms you have to need to know and go through there, because what they're going to do, and I'm going to give you kind of synopsis instead of trying to talk too much about my case, is after the allegations are turned in, you are consumed guilty of those allegations. You are guilty and then trying to be proved you're innocent. With most allegations or laws or anything like that, more court systems, you're guilty until you're proven um, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. But in CPS matters, you are guilty until you're proven innocent. It's a real sad. So after they do that, they're going to try to come to your home. They're going to try to call you. They're going to try to harass you and try to get you there. And if they're not successful, then they'll try to use deception. They'll get a law enforcement person, suppose they come with them or meet them at the home, and trick you to get them into the home. Now, law enforcement have the same rules that social workers have. They can't enter your home unless it's court ordered. A warrant is out. So you don't allow to let them in, and you don't want to. What you want to do is call your attorney, and that is it. I mean, you just don't want to talk to them. They're just so they're going to try to come in the house. So they get in the house by falsifying things like that. Then they see your house, and let's say it's messy, or there's signs of danger, or there's other things there. They're going to try to build up the case more so than the allegations. They really stretch. It is really sad what they do, but they stretch it, and with the allegations, they it can be so far fetched. I had one person tell me he's a father, and he said that his fiance's ex husband was making allegations to the social workers that the kids that he had were eating carpet like billy goats. That's how far fetched it was. Sad part is, once the case is open, they're going to have to investigate. So after the investigation, they're going to make a determine whether to take your kids from you and put them in a shelter, or put them with a family member. That's usually better to do that, because you don't want them to go into a group home. You don't even want them to go to the shelter. The shelter where my kids were taken wasn't safe. It was next to a prison. It was next to the dependency court. And on top of that, they had beehives in the yard where they exercised and they could get stung. So the shelters aren't all that great. A group home is just as worst. Group homes are supposed to have a mother and father and give a kind of environment that's similar to your home with different groups of kids. Well, our kids were taught not to love, put their hands aside when they greeted their parents. My son was punished all the time because he drank too much orange juice. There's a lot of stupid things they do, and my daughter was getting further and further uh, hurt by that. At first, we had visits. Now you get your visits. You could be unmonitored visits or monitored visits or visits where you have to attend a strict place. And some of those visits are really horrible. My wife at first was seeing our daughter. I wasn't. I've not ever seen her since she was 12 years old, and I wasn't allowed to. And she uh, she was brainwashed by them. But anyway, you have to figure out where these kids are going to stay. CPS wants them so that they get the rights to the children. They would love you to give up their rights. They're going to make some wheels and deals. But anyway, now we got a place for the kids. They can stay in the worst case, of course, is the foster home where they have other kids and the foster parents aren't all so good. There are some good foster parents, but a lot of fosters love that money thing. That money thing is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard of. They have no way to monitor the expenses or no way to control it. So, with that being said, the step after that is your planning, your first planning, and that's where you determine where the kid's going to be, a group home, foster care, sort of like that. It's your safety plan. And that's usually done 3 to 4 days after the kids are taken from you. Try to have your kids stay with relatives, a grandmother, a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, an older sibling, somebody that could take care of them, that likes to take care of them, that doesn't want them. We had it with my wife's sister and her husband. After a couple of months, they said it was too hard. It is hard raising kids. We are very much involved. My wife was very studious about making sure the kids' homeworks are done, and she took them every day to school, pick them up. And there are three locations. It's a lot of work. They're involved in Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. We had soccer going. We had trips to the Grand Canyon, Vancouver. We had trips out of the country to Brazil. Um, we to Hawaii and so forth. We had lots of trips, lots of places to go to. But when I lost my job, that was a perfect storm brewing because after I lost my job, which is 2010, CPS got involved. They got involved pretty soon after I lost my job, but 2015 is when they took our children, and so it wasn't until 2017 we had our kids back. So they have this planning meeting. Now, the planning meeting doesn't involve your kids, which I think is wrong. Anytime you should have weekly meetings with your kids. The kids need to know what their parents are doing, what's wrong, what's happening, and parents need to know what their kids are. They're not transparent about that. That'd be so nice if every week they got together and say, okay, this is what's happened with mom and dad, this is happening with the kids, and so forth. But they don't. They try to do alienation. Alienation is a big buzzword where you alienate someone from another person. Now, usually we think of parent alienation, we never think of social services alienation, but they do. They want to alienate your kids from you because they want your kids to stay in the system and become adopted, and so they can get the full rewards of all that money for 18 years. I mean, that's how long they can keep your kids. And they don't like we had our son in private school. They're trying to discourage him and say, oh, you can go to public school. You don't have to go to private school and so forth. And they really try to see one thing you have to know, unless your education and your health rights are taken, you still have those two rights. The other kids may not be in your custody. Don't give up your education and don't give up your health rights. You should pick the doctors they see. You should um, trying to think of the thing. Okay, pick the doctors that you see, and then you should decide what school they go to. What school they're going to learn and so forth. So you had your safety planning. Then there's further investigation goes on. During that time, there was something that I want you all to know about. And if any of you are Native American Indians, now this pertains to the Native American Indians, and yes, we all are Native Americans. If you're born here, you're a Native. And our first immigration came from the American Indians. They started over there in Siberia, came across the um, the land bridge at that time, settled in Alaska, then moved over to Canada, North America, and so forth. And that's how the migration of the first immigrations came to our country, the Native American Indians. Well, after that came, of course, the Vikings, and everybody thought it was Christopher Columbus, but he never discovered America. Uh, so, um, so there was the Vikings and then the Europeans, and the Europeans came over in different shifts and so forth. So with the American Indians in 1979, there was a uh, Indian Welfare Child Act. It's called ICWA, and what that basically said, that act is that if any CPS or social services comes across a Native American Indian, then their tribe could look after the matter and take care of them. You see, on Indian lands, that land can be, um, the federal government cannot be on there. So the Indians take care of their lands. That's why they have gambling. That's why they do a lot of things in there. So the tribes are a little bit more honest, a little bit more helpful, and they'll help you with your kids. They'll help you get them back. They're not going to steal you like CPS does. They don't get much in the way of funding and stuff, so they are your better resource. And we tried to do it with our kids. Now, if they're not registered, you can't have them register. But our social workers couldn't believe. They just looked at me and said, you're not an Indian. I said, well, my great great grandfather was a Norwegian from Bergen, Norway, and he was a Viking. But my great great grandmother was a Lakota Sioux from the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, and she was as Indian as ever. The only problem is Indians don't register. Now, my great great grandfather was married a fifth time, and so the family that on my side of the family, they didn't really want to talk about marriage to an Indian because that was looked down upon. And the American Indians have been abused. There's no question about that. They have been abused and still are being abused. And if you are, then ask your social worker to contact the tribe and have you register. Or if you are registered, then they'll turn the kids over to the tribe. That way you can get your necessary done. You're dealing with people that will help you. Right now, social workers will help you. They're not there to help. They're the help cause trouble. So I've told you about ICWA, so keep that in the back of your mind if you're a Native American Indian. Now, after you meet with them, they always recommend taking some classes. There's parenting classes, adult classes. If you're into substance abuse, there's substance abuse classes. If you did something physically wrong, like one mother said she was teaching her kids about staying away from the stove, and she took her kids' hands and put them on the hot stove and burned them, and she went a little bit too far. And in that school, the school knows the child had burnt hands, and that's how she got caught. But she did her due diligently. She took abusive classes, all that stuff. She got back her kids. That's the way it's supposed to work. We all might have hiccups. We might have something we don't know. We're not born with a manual of how to take care of our kids. Nothing has ever said, you're not. There's only one individual I know that talked about kids, and that was Dr. Spock. But that was my mom used to talk about. But he's been dead for years, and I don't think anybody listens to what Dr. Spock has to say. But we as parents, we love our kids. We do our best from what we learn from our parents and what we may have learned from other resources. But we do try to take our kids, and I know you all are out there that really want to. And with that being said, is that you're going to be fighting them a lot because they're going to assign you a public defender. Now, public defenders are nice because they don't cost money, but they usually are 20 cases or more. The ones that I was using had 20 cases. Plus, they don't really fight for you. They're not really hearts is into it, and they do some training and dealing with the social workers' attorneys. See, each child has an attorney, each parent will have an attorney, each social worker will have an attorney, and so you can imagine all those people in the courtroom, and then the judge, who wasn't qualified in my case, is pals with everybody there. They go to play golf, they have luncheons, and so you're not going to get a fair dealing in the court. I didn't get one, and I tried to fight Child Protective Service. You could try the same thing. Write them numerous emails and call them up and arrange meetings and everything. But the top dog that I dealt with, in my case, went in one ear, went out the other. He could care less. None of the supervisors could care less or anything else. And so it was like a nightmare. I was intelligent. My wife was intelligent. We both were lost. And it was hard for us. It really was hard. Why were we being punished? Because Dad had lost a job and was struggling financially. That was the only reason why her parents were trying to get involved, is because they thought they could take her kids away, and they thought with no job. It's really sad though when that does happen, because you want to love your wife's parents and you want to love them, but it's like you can't trust them. It's really, really bad. So so we are dealing with sort of every time I wrote, every time I talked, it got worse. If I didn't get my visitation to complain, it got worse. If I saw something I didn't like and complain about it, it got worse. They were determined to break us parents. They're very good at what they're doing. They're very evil and deceitful, and they use anything. And on top of that, as I said earlier, These social workers don't have licenses. I'm going to stop a moment and talk about the host, the show, this show, who produces the show, or not produce it, but who sponsors the show. It's Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California with many lawyers dealing with all kinds of different legal matters. Mr. Davis himself specializes in family law. He is the one that knows how to get your children back and fight CPS. He does fight CPS. He's a trial attorney. He has many, many years. He practices in Southern California, Northern California, and all over 50 states. So, he's known everywhere. And he's somebody that you want to get a hold of. Why? He is offering right now a 30-minute up to an hour consultation. And he'll talk about the strategies of your CPS case and how to get your children back. That is perfect for all you listeners out there because you should take that up. You can call my office, 888-888-6582. And when you call in, say that Bob Pace sent you and that you want to schedule a time to meet with Vincent Davis. And so they'll pick a date and time you can meet with them. And if you don't hear back or you have some scheduled, my apologies, make sure you do it again. He's a busy man. And he will help you. He will help you see that through. So keep that in mind because I tell people, could you do open heart surgery on yourself, by yourself? I mean, you need someone who knows how to navigate and get through it there. If any of you have been listening right now and still want to call in, please do so. The number is 626-698-0990. And you can call in and I give you time on the show. Or if you just want to be another time you'll talk at a later date, you can call 888-888-6582. That's my office number. Mention Bob Pace and that you want to schedule a time to talk on the show. I love to hear other people than me sitting there talking all the time. There's that way too. But you can call me right now, 626-698-0990, and I'll put you on. There's about a half an hour left of the show. We go there. Okay, we got somebody named Nadine Perez. Yes, this plan is to break the parent's spirit. Now, why they favor putting... Oh, I did have it there. Where'd it go? Okay. Now, why they favor putting the children in the care of a truly harmful people baffles me. Well, they want to be able to manipulate them, so they're going to find someone that, will follow the directions and make up stories. That's why they do it there, Nadine Perez. What state are you calling from? What state are you in? Let me put her comment up there so all your listeners can see this comment here. This is what Nadine wrote. So I'm trying to find out. You're right. They do try to break the parents. They do a really good job in destroying the parents. You're right about that. The reason why they put them with social workers or group home stuff because they can manipulate them. They can control them. So it's like that. Nadine, what state are you calling from? Okay, California. I have my kids back now after a 2-year battle. Wow. Congratulations. That's a good story. Would you like to share your story right now live? I can have you call in at 626-698-0990 and let you talk. Do you want to talk now? That's 626-698-0990. Yeah, I know that. I had to do my home. I had to do my inheritance. Yeah, I know that is a hard there. Um, yeah, why don't you call in right now, 626-698-0990. I'll let you tell about your case, how it got started, the allegations, and how it got started, okay? All right? So she's going to call in. And again, the number is 626. There she is, right on cue. Hello, Nadine, do you hear me?
Hi there. Yeah, I can hear you.
Good, okay. Let me take that phone number off for the time being so no one else calls in so you have the show. Well, welcome. You're live on the show. Can you start off with
Oh,
your
thank you.
allegations in the beginning and tell me the good news? You got your kids back in 2 years? That's great.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I can barely hear you, but I can. Hold on a second. Let's see if it's my
That's
my
okay.
phone.
Maybe.
Okay, so
Is this better?
my yeah, that's better. Well, my story started when I was going through a spell of homelessness, and they were. I had a family member who was not happy with the way I was trying to get on my feet, or the lack of my being able to get on my feet. And instead of helping my situation, kind of maliciously really made it worse. And my kids were actually taken from the school unexpectedly. I didn't know until I went to go pick them up. And we were actually staying in hotels and in my car at the time. And so they actually took them. I got a court date. Uh, I can. It was horrific. I didn't even know. I had no clue what CPS was.
What were the allegations?
I but never knew.
Yeah. What were the allegations?
Well, once I got to court, the allegations were general neglect. So in the courtroom, the judge actually scolded. I was surprised. Actually scolded the DCFS attorney, and said we're not, and actually told them we're not. Let me remind the people in the court, we are not here to take children on assumption. Like, we are not here to take them from parents. We are here to protect children that are being harmed. So right. I was given my kids back. However, at that very moment in time, as I think you may have heard, or people have experienced, they take advantage of a parent's desperateness to have their child back. So they're like, sign this paper, sign that paper.
Yes, they want to wheel and deal your rights away. You're right.
Yes. Yeah, so I signed whatever I needed to sign, and I went home with my kids. So the way they got them back out of my care, they actually contacted their father, who I had left because of domestic violence years and years before. I mean, okay. I had two daughters, and my youngest daughter from him didn't even know him. I had left him 2 weeks before giving birth. So they tracked him down, and so basically they gave him, all of a sudden they wanted him in their lives, and they had to start seeing their father for whatever reason on a weekend basis. So I was uncomfortable with it because, again, my youngest one didn't even know him. He was abusive. And this is about 7 years that he had been out of our life, period. He never wanted to see them, never asked to see them, never take support, anything. And I didn't mind that because he was abusive, and I didn't want him around the children. I wanted to start him. So anyway, in the meantime, as he started seeing them or getting them every weekend, again, I was homeless. So he had a grandmother that passed away on Saturday that he had to have him, and I was supposed to get him back the next day. And being nice, and then being in the position that I was in, it seemed that he was doing better or okay. So I said, if you want them there for, support or just to kind of cheer them up, I said, it's the holiday weekend. Monday is it was like a Labor Day or Memorial Day, some kind of school holiday. And I said, you can keep them for another day if you want.
Right,
And
right.
he said, yeah, can I? He was really happy. Well, I did not remember, since they were with their father that Monday, that they had me going in for testing. So I remembered Monday afternoon, and I said, oh my gosh, it's Monday. I might have to test. So I went, I called my worker, I said, I have to test. At that point, I had already lost my car, so I didn't even have a working car at that point. Again, I was homeless in my car, living in hotels. And she said, don't worry about it, I'll put in for another order. Well, don't worry about it turned into the next day at the school, Tuesday, when class was back in, they went into kids. And from there, they said she missed the test. So, therefore, a missed test is counted as dirty. And that's where my nightmare began, and my children's nightmare, because they ended up getting physically, mentally abused by their father, reporting it to the caseworkers, and the caseworkers essentially disregarding it and making me out to be the monster.
Well, what they're doing is they know they can manipulate the father. They know that you're a smart woman, and they couldn't manipulate you, so they wanted to keep that's why they're trying to do the father, because in the long run. Because, see, if they keep their children to the age of 18, they'll make a lot of money. They'll make a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Well, unfortunately, they did a number on him. I didn't stop fighting, but again, the caseworker was just against me the entire time. And they will manipulate. They will lie. They will fabricate reports. It was to the point where they knew that my main reason of instability was a home. So they are supposed to help a parent. With the reunification program, they're supposed to help a parent gain housing if that's an issue. So I actually was set up with an interview at a women's and children's shelter in the city that we lived in. Well, I went, I had the interview, it went wonderfully. I had a really good feeling about it, so I was just waiting for that intake call. So they said, if you get in there, then you get to have your children to live with you there, and then you continue your classes there. I was so happy, and that call never came. And I was just bewildered, like, why wouldn't they take me? I answered right, everything was right. Well, it wasn't until I was reading the report on the way to the courthouse where I was having the next hearing, I read in the report that my caseworker actually reached out to the housing location and told them that I denied the services, that I no longer wanted the housing services. And I gasped on the bus. I could not believe the lie. They knew that that's all I was waiting for. And instead of reaching out to me, which I was in regular contact with her and waiting for that, she went and told them that I denied the services. And then she went and told, she went, how did it go? She told the court one thing and she told the housing facility another thing. And I just couldn't, again, their lies and manipulation they have no bounds. They have no bounds, and they're heartless, and you cannot trust them. I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree. All you do is reinforce, because you're like all the other hundreds of mothers and fathers that have told about how social services operate.
Yes.
You would think they would require a license, because what they're doing is really dangerous stuff. They're really deciding the future of your children. And for them not to require them a license, I think is ridiculous. I think that is totally wrong. On that. Now,
it is ridiculous.
Did you ever once have a safety plan meeting to determine where the kids would stay?
There was so many.
It's usually the first couple days.
The worker. Go ahead, say that again.
It's usually the first couple days, the first week, when they take away your kids.
Well, they were staying with their dad at his girlfriend's house. at his girlfriend's apartment.
Okay, but they contacted the dad, and the dad said, "I'll take care of him," right?
Yes,
Well, they're
yes.
still supposed to have a follow-up meeting in person with the social workers. They determine if they'll stay at their dad's or they'll go some other place, some other relative.
Hmm. Well, uh, unfortunately, it was the only other meeting was in court where I spoke to my attorney and let them know that they have no being with their father would not be beneficial because of the past of abuse. And they again, even my attorney, the kid's attorney, they don't fight for the kids. They don't fight. My attorney, DCFS appointed attorney, will not fight for you. Basically, any concern I had was not even voiced in the court, and I was not allowed to speak in the court or interrupt. So
Okay.
with all of my concerns were just unheard.
Right.
It'll be okay. Don't worry, it'll be okay.
Right.
No, you don't understand. He abuses them. Well, in the long run, what he and his girlfriend ended up doing was getting my youngest on medications. They were trying to get her into being social, like on Social Security, and getting her into a IEP program at school. There was absolutely nothing wrong with her. All of her teachers loved her. She was a great student. But they started giving her, they got a therapist and a psychiatrist to start doping her up.
Yep.
When I finally got my visits back with them, she came. So she was taking probably about, 2 pills, 2, 4, 6, about 6 to 7 pills a day, and she was just a zombie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So how do you turn things around? How did you turn things around?
Well, unfortunately, it took a year of me fighting with them to even get to see my kids on a regular basis. The dad would continually, postpone, cancel, not show up. So they ended up giving him full custody and closing my case. Well, giving him full custody, I had to wait about 4 months because the case went to another courthouse, and I was waiting for my regular visitations, which should have been every other weekend of visitations, and he never complied with those. So I had to take him back to court, and this was not in the DCFS court. This was in regular court. I let the judge know what was happening. He asked the father, why isn't he complying? He said he didn't know about any schedule. And the dumb child's court didn't make a plan or days. They said, you guys can just, talk amongst yourselves and follow up and make your own plan. Well, again, the father, being the narcissist that he is, an abuser that he is, he never reached out to me at all. He just took them and never answered any more calls. So, anyway, back to regular court, the judge kind of saw right through. He started giving me my girls on overnight visits with me, and this is after a year already of not only my case being closed, but an additional about 3 to 4 months of not seeing them. So finally, I saw them. I got to see them, and it was around the Christmas. It was a Christmas holiday break. I had them for about 10 days straight, and they slowly opened up to me about all the abuse that they were experiencing in the home, and I started working on a case, and eventually another DCFS case opened against the father. And that time around, I had done so much research into what is DCFS, who are these people. Again, like you said, they're not even qualified to be doing the work that they're doing. I read up on so much stuff, so I let the next worker know, this is what I do, this is what my kids have been through, and I'll be damned if we're going to go through this again. So I was on top of everything. In the end, my case was closed, and I got full custody back.
Well, was it because did you enlist an attorney? Did you get an attorney to help you, or how did you get full custody back again?
Getting full custody back, I did not get an attorney. I couldn't afford one the second time around. I did have an attorney at the regular courthouse.
Yeah, how did you do it on your own the second time around? How did you do it on your own? Did you study or did you learn something?
Again, the only way that I think worked for me this time was doing so much studying and learning about CPS, hearing other, going online and hearing other parents' experiences, and letting my new worker know, which in this case the father was the abuser, and the kids were staying with me. The only thing I can think of, because I didn't do anything different this time, except tell the worker, I'm not going to put up with what I did the first time. I know, what you should be doing. I know what a false report is. I know that I can take you. I'm going to take you to court. I'm going to take the therapist to court and the psychiatrist to court to get my daughter's off of these medications that she doesn't need. And all I was adamant, and I stood my ground, and I was more knowledgeable the next time around. And I didn't feel that maybe I got lucky. This worker did not railroad me. That's the only thing. I didn't do anything different.
Okay.
But no, the only thing different is that I was more knowledgeable in their game.
It is a game they play. I mean, it's really sad to say
it
is a game they play,
mm-hmm.
because the social workers have bonuses. My social worker was in her early 20s. She never met her with anybody, so she didn't have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we meet with her, my wife and I meet with her, she'd talk about her new eyelashes, her new makeup, her Gucci purse, the bonus for her car.
Right.
They give the workers all these bonuses, and they congratulate them when they steal the kids from the families. And I was never had a situation like this in all my life. And I was at 65 trying to go through this, and I'm 74 now. But those 3 years, get my kids back, it was excruciating. And on top of that, because I waited too late to get an attorney, I lost my daughter because she was convinced that foster care was the way to go to get money. And so they alienated my daughter from us parents, and talked to me that these foster parents.
I know exactly what you mean by the alienation. I know.
Well,
exactly
the thing is,
getting my kids.
You see, in my case, the second part of not having a job, my parents were dying, and I had all their personal belongings that I took out of their home because they wanted me to give it to other family members. We had nobody that was from my side of the family that could help out, and so I had them in the house, and that's too much belongings. And that's where they said the neglect was. That's where it was said there, and they really stretched it hard. And she's with these other people. We used to have Disneyland passes for the whole family, and now you're talking $8,000, $9,000 now to get 4 of them. And so, I at that time when I lost my job, I couldn't do it. I couldn't renew it. It was happening in August. Our passes were good to the end of the year, but come January, I didn't renew them because I couldn't afford it. I mean, it's part of our Spartan lifestyle. I had to concentrate on taking care of the family, that they're fed and clothed and housed, and they're in school doing their work, and they had recreation activities, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, AYSO soccer, those kinds of things. So it was sad how they manipulate and how they knew exactly. They used just very deceitful tactics. They are really, really, really bad about that. It took you 2 years to get them back, right?
It was I say 2 years because they were 1 year I battled from the day they took them to the day they closed the case. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, it was about 3 to 4 months that I didn't see them at all. And then I started seeing them again. And it was the remainder of that year that I ended up getting them back again. So, right about 2 years.
Wow. I'm so glad you would. Was there a certain form you turned in to change the plan or stop them? How did you know how to stop them?
No. Again, the only thing, once I had them, and again, the father had full custody of them, but the judge, where I think, I had heard somewhere a story online or shared ideas or heard someone's story online about going to the regular court, because the children's court, juvenile court, they're all corrupted. The whole thing is corrupted.
Well, what kind of court did you go to? What kind
I'm sorry?
what kind of court you go to?
Well, I went to the regular court. I'm in Los Angeles, so it's Edmonds. I can't remember. It's in downtown LA. So it's a regular courthouse in downtown LA.
So you didn't go to the
I went
family
to
court.
their court.
How did you change the jurisdiction? How did you do that?
Well, the reason by them closing the case in their courthouse and giving full custody to the father, the jurisdiction is transferred to our closest courthouse. So it closes. They close the case. They give the father physical custody. Give me monitor visits, and it's out of their hands. And they transfer our files to our nearest courthouse. It took me a while to find out which courthouse they sent it to. I would go to their courthouse and ask, but they had no information for me. So it took me a while to find out which courthouse our case was sent to. And then it takes a while for them to get the case in their system. So it took a while. It took a while for me to get a court hearing. So that is basically what triggered another case. I didn't want it to go back to children's court. I told the judge at our regular courthouse, I said, the children's court is corrupted, but I had pictures of my daughter coming to me, after going back with their father for one weekend. After coming, they would visit me every other weekend. Went back to live with their father, and one weekend that I got them, she had the light bruising under her eye, and I took pictures of it, and that's what I took to our regular courthouse. And I said, I want this to go back to children's court because they're corrupted and they don't do anything about abuse. They don't, this is from the father. He has my other daughter drugged up on drugs she doesn't need, and here's a picture of my other daughter with a black eye from him. And I said, I don't want it. Unfortunately, they said, we have to send it back there. We can't hear this case here. That's how it was transferred back to children's court. But again, with the father as the abuser, or as the
Wow.
well, he was the abuser. They never, had done abuse. But yeah, it was just a nightmare. It was a
Well, you sound like a
nightmare.
really solid woman, and you're very persistent, and you're able to fight them. And so you never did get an attorney the second time around.
No, I didn't. I just, again, I let the new worker know, my social worker. I let them know. I said, I know how you guys operate. You guys completely tore my family apart the first time. And I remember one time, it was around the holidays. They steal so much that even it's supposed to, resources that are supposed to go to the family. I remember him having me sign this paper. It was around the holidays, and he had asked me, what do your children want for Christmas? Da, 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 da. So, we got a list down, gave it to him. He came back to me with stuff from the 99-cent store. I didn't care. I was like, whatever, whatever. And then he has me sign this paper. Can you sign this for me and show that you received the gifts? And then I'm looking at it, so I'm signing off. And then it shows there that I received 3 gift cards of like $50 each. And I looked at him and I said, you know that I didn't receive this. I said, but I'm going to sign it and you're going to make sure that my case goes right. And I think that too, just
Wow.
knowing how crooked they are, calling it out in his face. This is again, like, this is the kind of dirty, underhanded things they do, it's disgusting.
That's amazing,
But, one good thing that came out of it, besides me getting my girls back, I went to school. I've always been in healthcare. I'm still in the healthcare work field. But I went back to school. I got my associate's degree in paralegal. I'm working on my bachelor's for social work, and I plan on getting into the field of helping parents reunite with their children. That's my goal now.
Wow, that is a great goal, and I think you're going to go far with that goal. It's been a really long battle, and I'm so glad to hear that news. Now, we have about 30 seconds left of the show. I do want to announce our attorney, Vincent W. Davis, who is a trial attorney. He's a family law attorney. He will defend you. He's offering a 30-minute up to 1-hour consultation. You just call in at 888-888-6582 and schedule a time to meet with him, and he'll go over the strategies of your CPS case and how to get your children back. Make sure you mention my name, Bob Pace, when you call in there. But Nadine, I want to thank you so much for calling in and tell some good news. I'm so glad you got your family back the way you want it, and everybody seems so happy and healthy. So thank you again, Nadine.
Yes.
I'm getting ready to sign off,
Yes.
and thank you all the listeners. Best of luck in the new year. I want you to have much success and happiness, and God bless you. And that's Bob Pace signing off.